Mrs. Gabby G here. I wanted to come back with you guys and talk about a very specific subject. I am going to refer to our regime that I'm on right now. We're coming on 4 months now that my husband and I have both started taking the products, the Plexus products. And so I know that I've shared, I think that, you've been able to see that I'm so passionate about it. There's very specific reasons why I've gotten so passionate about taking the products. They really have changed my life. They've changed my husband's life in so many different ways. But today I want to talk about something that is so common with women. It's so common, and I really want to talk about this one specific area that the Plexus products have really affected my life, have changed my life in this one specific area. And that is with my hormones, with my change of life, with the side effects of all the things that happen to women in our change of life. And that's preparing for a hysterectomy. A lot of women have had a hysterectomy. A lot of women are preparing to have a hysterectomy or finding alternatives. I just want to share a little bit about my journey when it comes to this hysterectomy. Right around 2010, my cycles had started to change. Right around 2010, I had turned 40 years old, and I noticed that my cycle started to change. The first thing I noticed is that it got longer. My cycles got longer. I started spotting, before my cycle even started. So that's really what happened first. They began to get a little bit more painful. I remember one time, and again, I'm going to get a little bit graphic because this is not, an entertainment video. This is a passionate, heart-to-heart talk, especially if you're a woman or if you're watching it with your spouse. This is something that happens to a lot of couples, and it's something that's difficult to talk to. I think that's why most people don't want to talk about it, and it is hard for me to even talk about it, to put myself out there like that. But it has changed my life so much that I really can't not share it. I know that I have, my personal family, my sisters, my mom, so many, the list goes on and on and on, of women that have gone through this, and I want to share because something has really affected me. So again, it's kind of graphic, but it is what it is. I really want to be able to have women kind of know that there's other people going through that and that there's answers. So right around 2010, my husband and I would be out in the field. We worked together, and we were driving in the same car. And I was on my cycle. It happened to be one of my days that I was on my cycle, and I was very uncomfortable, but still, like I always did, worked anyways. And I felt something coming out. Like I felt like what I just thought was kind of like, oh, I better go change. I better go do something about this. So we stopped at a Burger King. My husband and I'll never forget. This was the first time this happened to me. It never happened to me before in my life. We had gone to a Burger King, and I got out of the car, went into the Burger King to use the restroom to do what I have to do, what a woman does. And so when I went into the restroom, ladies, I mean, this to me was so scary. This never happened to me before. I went to the restroom, as I go to sit down on the toilet, it just, a bunch of stuff it just came out and like splattered on the floor. I had a massive accident, something that was beyond my control. It wasn't pee, and it just was on the floor, and I freaked out, and it was like a big like clots that was coming out, and I, got it all over myself. And I mean, can you imagine? This is the middle of a work day. I had never known that this could even happen to me. So I cleaned myself up. I started to cry. I walk outside and I'm freaking out. I'm, almost for my husband, I'm almost yelling at my husband, open the door to the car, I had to get out. I happened to have white shorts on that day, and it was just such a terrible experience. And so I, of course I came home, and that was a shocker to me that had happened to me. But that was one of the first things I remember that day, that something, changed. And so they began to change some more. My cycles began to change. They began, like I said, to get longer. They began to get very, very painful, very painful. Growing up, I would have cramps like any other woman. I would have cramps. Sometimes I wouldn't have to take, aspirin. Sometimes I would take some, some aspirin, and I would go about my day, but it was never debilitating. Growing up with my cycles, I was never a woman that it was debilitating. It was never where it was so painful that I couldn't function, that I couldn't do what I had to do. But now that I turned 40, this is what was happening to me. It was becoming very, very painful. I was taking pain medications, a lot to get through the pain. My cycle started to last, 20 days, 21 days of the month of, spotting, heavy cycle, spotting afterward. And so my PMS began to get, something called PMDD. So PMDD is something that's, PMS to the 10th power. PMDD is something so indescribable, and look it up, ladies, research it. I had no idea that this even existed until this started happening to me. Maybe about a year ago, my husband helped me research, and we found out, that's what we found out. If you don't know what that is, research that. PMDD, it's PMS to the 10th power, totally out of control. My hormones were totally out of control. My cycles began to get to the point where I couldn't leave my house. It was just uncontrollable. Hemorrhaging and things like that. Very, very painful hemorrhaging. I couldn't go out. There was several times where I had to miss work. I had to come home from work. I couldn't go to parties, anything like that. It was just running my whole life for a good 3 weeks of the month, basically. And the hard thing about that, ladies, as I'm sure you know, the hard thing about that is that by the time that your cycle ends, you're already sad, because it's only maybe about a week and it's going to start all over again because it lasted so long. And that's how I was for years. That's how I was for about 4 or 5 years of my life was like that. And so I began to, they gave me iron pills because I was very anemic. I was told by another doctor, if you don't get this fixed, you might have to have a hysterectomy. You're going to pass out. All these things. I went to gynecologist after gynecologist to get answers. I didn't get any answers. And so it got me so sad, I started to take Xanax. And that became taking Xanax every day. It became to taking it more than once a day sometimes, because it was so overpowering in my life. So then what happened was I lost so much blood. I lost so much blood last November that I had to have a hysterectomy. I had to have a blood transfusion. So whatever they did, it was not stopping the bleeding. I was like this for years. I went to several trips to the emergency room, several times to the emergency room. I had cysts, I had fibroids, uterine fibroids, all these things were happening. So then finally, after last November, after I had to have the blood transfusion, and after that experience of being there and seeing, just the blood from the IV, the thing coming in, and that's such a horrific experience. I was so out of it, and it was just so overwhelming for me that my husband and I, we got together and we said, that's it, I can't take this anymore. I'm only 45 years old, I shouldn't be living this way. So, after that, November, the holidays passed, January came, and we just said, this is it, we're going to do something about this. I've shared before that we made a goal that 2016 was going to be about our quality of life. 2016 was going to be about taking care of ourselves and really focusing on our health, on getting better, getting stronger for ourselves, for each other, for our children, our grandchildren, for just our quality of life. And we came in, and that's what we said we were going to do, and that's exactly what we did. So we sought out these products, and at the end of January, I placed my order. I started taking these products February 5th, and I was so excited because I said, this has to work. God is so good that I know for a fact that He put this in my life. So I started taking it February 5th, and immediately I felt a difference. You guys have heard, if you haven't seen that, there's another video that I talk about that. But I want to talk about just this today. And so immediately I started to feel a difference. February, my cycle was right around the same. I was on medication still to stop the bleeding. So then in February, we decided to stop taking that medication. So it's kind of the same. It was still painful. March was so much better. My cycle in March was so much better. So much less pain. I didn't have to take pain medication. I was able to tolerate the pain. My cycle was shorter. It was no hemorrhaging whatsoever. Very manageable. April, my cycle in April, I was getting ready to have the hysterectomy. I went to the cardiologist. My doctor, my gynecologist was already scheduling it. They were already getting the insurance and making all the arrangements already. She was already getting the second person that was going to help her do the surgery. As you see in my other video, I was watching YouTube videos talking about hysterectomy, the type of hysterectomy, which type am I going to have, where am I going to get the incision, and all those things I was researching and getting ready. I went to my cardiologist to get the clearance to be able to have a hysterectomy, to go under anesthesia. I got that, and I said to myself and my husband, I said, you know what, if everything goes good in April, once I get the clearance, if it goes good in April, I don't see any reason to move forward with the hysterectomy. Everything went really well. In May, oh my goodness, it's so unbelievable to me. As you guys know, I was able to get off the Xanax. I have been off of Xanax for over 100 days now. Unbelievable. That is so unbelievable to me that I am off of that substance, off of that. I share that with you. Believe me, it's not easy for me to just say even the word Xanax. I know so many people who, I don't know what in the world you might be thinking right now, but I took it. Oh man, I'm trying not to get emotional. It's hard. It's hard to live your life like that. It's really, really hard to live your life depending on that to get through your day. Depending on that, needing that to get yourself just to be able to function. It's really hard. And I'll never forget that, only because I never want to forget where I came from. I never want to forget what I went through. I don't want to forget that, because there's so many women that are going through the same thing. I know it. I know there are. So many women have reached out to me, and I know that there's so many. And I'm so grateful that because of these products, because of the ingredients that are in these products, I was able to get off the Xanax. I haven't had any Xanax since I came off of it about over 100 days ago now. I don't take any pain medication for cramps or anything like that. I was taking so much ibuprofen, I had to go to the ER for that. It messed up my stomach so bad, the ibuprofen. It was eating up my stomach of that. And so in May, my cycle is so much better, short, maybe 4 days. I don't have hardly any spotting. I spot maybe 1 day, then I have a cycle for 4 days, and it's over. And it's very over. It's like when I was in my 20s. My cycles have now gone back to like when I was in my 20s. My cycles are great, very manageable, nowhere near needing a hysterectomy. So now the hysterectomy has been canceled. And this, guys, this right here is after 5 or 6 years of going to gynecologist after gynecologist, going to the emergency room, going to county facility, trying to figure out our insurance, trying to figure out all this stuff. I know that there's people out there. I know that you or you know somebody that has been through that. I mean, it was just horrific. I remember I went to the emergency room and my parents drove all the way out there to see me, and I was so upset. I told my husband, please tell him to go. I mean, it's so hard to have people see you like that. You know, going through this, you feel so dumb. Like, you know, you feel so dumb having to go to the emergency room and then having to go over here and you know, hauling your husband around and trying to find answers, and it affects your quality of life. It affects your life as husband and wife. You know, it just puts a whole damper all over your life to try to figure out. And that's where I was. Nobody was giving me answers. Nobody, you know, and they were going to give me antidepressants, because this really takes a bearing on your life. Living like this really affects your life. I'm so grateful that I did not take the antidepressants. For those of you, if you are on antidepressants, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. You're doing what you have to do. I was so ready. I was absolutely ready to take them, because I did not want to live like that. I'm just so grateful that my friend that shared these products with me shared them. She shared just like I share. She shared social media. She would just share, and I became intrigued. I said, wow, I wonder if that could really help me. And it changed my life. I literally would be right now, I was going to have the surgery sometime in May. I was going to have that because my daughter's birthday is the first week of May. So I was already going to schedule it for sometime after the first week of May. That's a 6 weeks, 4 to 6 week recovery time. I literally would be in recovery mode right now. I literally would be there, or almost getting out of recovery mode right now of a hysterectomy. And because of these products, because of whatever ingredients are in there, I'm telling you right now, I have saved my body from that. I feel phenomenal, phenomenal that my hormones are in order, my cycles are in order. It's just so incredible what these products have done for me, for my husband, for my family, for my whole body in regards to my hormones. My change of life took a full new turn, and I'm so excited about that. So if you're hesitating, at all about taking these products, if you're thinking about it, I really pray that you give yourself an opportunity. I really pray that you give yourself an opportunity to have this life-changing experience during this one of our most difficult times as being women. One of the most difficult challenges in our life is getting through these about 10 years of our life that this change of life kind of happens to us. I pray that you go to the person that shared this video with you. If you know me personally, please contact me, message me. I'll give you my link. I'll walk you through it. We'll work together to get these products in your hands and in your body. We'll coach you. We'll help you to get positive results. I'm telling you right now, from the bottom of my heart, if you're having any issues like this, the best thing you could do in your life is get these things into your life. There's nothing to lose and everything, I promise you, everything to gain. I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and thank you so much for reaching out. I hope that you'll continue to do that. It helps me so much to do what I'm doing and to share with you. Thank you so much. I hope to see you on the next one.